So Warchigan has a lot of amazing and in some way also really overpowered vehicles in different categories. However, in today's video, instead of going over something that's the best, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the worst vehicles from every vehicle class, because with all honesty, there isn't that many of them. So let's just jump right into it. So firstly, we're going to be starting off with the Ju-87 Stuka, and this vehicle, in my opinion, is by far the worst one out of all of the propeller planes, and this might seem like it doesn't make that much sense. However, there's a big reason for why this is the case. So one of the main reasons why is because of the machine guns themselves. Let's take a look at something like the Mustang, which has like double the machine guns and each one does a lot more damage. The explosion effect is just much more powerful, so obviously you're going to be doing more AoE to everybody, except this thing, it doesn't have that much damage against really anything per hit, and its AoE is also not that great. It heavily relies on its bomb to be able to get the damage done. However, this bomb is still not even that good because for one, the bombs take a lot of time to actually land if you're shooting them from like really high up, to be honest. However, another issue is that this vehicle literally gives you a warning sign whenever you're diving down and trying to hit some of the bomb. So you're not really being stealthy over here, and you got the air turret at the back, which is basically useless. Honestly, if I have a choice, I prefer to use the Mustang because it just has a better turning speed and its weaponry is just much more reliable. But anyway, now next I'm moving into the next vehicle over here, which is gonna be the EA-18 Growler, and the sad fact is about the Growler, this vehicle does have one really cool feature, which is obviously going to be the lock-on jamming. It's got really good lock-on range, but man, it has nothing else than that. So if you manage to get into a dogfight against somebody, you're not gonna be landing these missiles. And even if you are, then the dogfight is probably gonna be lasting like 5 to 10 minutes if the person doesn't know what they're doing and it don't kill you in 1 minute. However, this thing is pretty decent when it comes to countering Patriots just because it's got the 2 anti-ground missiles and the Patriot cannot lock onto it. But really, that's about it. I don't see this vehicle countering anything else in the game. So yeah, this is going to be my choice as the 2 worst planes in this category. Alrighty, so now moving into the helicopters, and there's a lot of really weird and mid-helis, to be honest with you. However, the one thing which I noticed for sure is that this video would be way too boring if I just had something like a Lakota as the worst helicopter in the game. Let's just take a look at some operation helis. So first up, we're going to be starting off with the Black Hawk. This one you already know enough about. I've already talked about the Black Hawk so much. This thing has no weaponry. It is a infantry transport helicopter. It doesn't transport anything else, which is really sad. However, another helicopter which I'm also going to be moving into, unfortunately, is going to be the Eurocopter, and this feels really sad to say because the Eurocopter has received a lot of buffs and it was actually pretty good for a while. However, after that, they basically nerfed this thing and its damage is not as great anymore. However, its main issue and what they mainly nerfed is they took away its 2 flares, which it previously had as far as I know. Now it is only left with 1 flare, and that is really bad for a helicopter which has little weaponry which is used to engage in air-to-air, except due to its flare count, you can't really do that so well, to be honest with you. Just because if somebody just baits out your flare and then comes back around and shoots you with missiles, you're done, and the flare just doesn't last that long. So the Eurocopter has decent weaponry, but realistically, you really need to be able to defend yourself. Now next I'm moving into the ground vehicles, which are really interesting. I'm gonna be starting off with the Humvee Hawkeye, which, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this vehicle is so bad. And the sad thing is that its artillery shell actually does quite a lot of damage if you manage to land it. However, it's not gonna be like the K9, you're not exactly getting too much damage anyway, it's just pretty decent really. But the thing is, this vehicle literally requires you to stand still in order to be able to fire your shell. War Tycoon is not about standing still. War Tycoon is a movement-based game. You're just gonna die right away in this thing. I've got nothing more to say about it. But anyway, the next vehicle which I'm gonna be moving into is the Speedy Humvee. And this is really sad to say, to be honest with you guys, because the Speedy used to once be really good. However, unfortunately, right now it is just not the vehicle to get. You are wasting your Robux on this, there is no point in getting it at all. Sure, it can go 150 miles per hour, but how is that useful if the map doesn't allow you to even go that speed? Ah man, it just feels so sad to me, but that's just how it is. Now next I'm moving into the tanks, and I'm gonna be starting off with the Sherman Calliope. So the Calliope offers you nothing. Literally nothing. I'm just gonna say it. The only thing which you could use it for is artillery, which I guess can be okay against ships, but that's literally about it. Plus, honestly, I prefer to use a normal artillery truck that isn't the Sherman, because at least it's not going to be going like a turtle. It's going to be a lot faster. It is a wheeled vehicle. Sure, it says that the Sherman can go 52 miles per hour. I really doubt that. I think our artilleries, which go the same speed, are actually faster than it, just because the wheels interact with the map a lot better. However, another thing with the Sherman is that its turret just turns so slow, man. I cannot deal with this thing. It's just not my type of vehicle. But anyway, next I'm moving into the T-72, and this is probably the weakest battle tank that we have in the game right now. I mean, it kinda makes sense. This is a 2-part tank. It's got its 125mm cannon, which actually deals decent damage. I believe they buffed it. However, its machine gun has a lot left to be desired. Its health is okay, I guess, but like this tank really doesn't offer you anything special. Its turret also aims really slowly, and you cannot turn it that well. Man, I just cannot use the T-72 either. Alrighty, so next I'm moving into the submarines, and I don't have anything to say about this. All of them are really OP, except for the Losos, obviously, but like the Losos is a starter vehicle, so obviously it's going to be the worst, and I'm not going to be talking about it since that's just going to make the video boring. And now moving into the ships, and the obvious pick would be the jet ski and the Barracuda. However, I'm not doing obvious picks. I'm going to be starting off with a Thermal, which is an operation vehicle. So the Thermal has one really good thing going for it, and that's going to be the fact that it's decent, and only decent, at ship combat. There's nothing that's good at except for that, because these guns are just like spread so far apart that even if an air vehicle is coming at you, you're probably not going to be able to hit it, just because of the fact that only one of your guns is probably going to be able to actually score a hit on it, like I said, because of the previous reason that the guns are so far apart. So yeah, I don't really have much more to say about the Thermal. Moving into the next vehicle, which I think is honestly a little bit better, but still kinda bad, that's gonna be the PR-206. So the PR-206, I've noticed, has a lot of buffs every now and then, but then they shadow nerf it. It doesn't really make that much sense to me, to be honest with you guys. However, this thing is armed with 2 autocannons, which actually deal pretty good damage. It's kinda like the Thermals in a way, and it's also got the torpedoes. Except I found the torpedoes to be extremely unreliable against submarines. Like whenever you fire them against subs, a lot of the time, they kinda just miss, to be honest with you guys, and I don't know why that's actually the case. This doesn't happen on other vehicles like the Independence X for me. It doesn't happen on submarines. I don't know, man. But like the PR-206 is just kind of a vehicle that you're spending 7 parts on, which kinda is supposed to have everything, but it's not really that great at anything either. And now moving into the hovercrafts, and as the worst hovercraft, I'm gonna have to go with the PAC-V78 Rampage. And before you start saying that the anti-air one might be a little bit worse, I'll tell you why the anti-air one is probably better. Because it is way better at overall team play. If you manage to have a few people in a faction just using this, then they're gonna absolutely brutalize you with these missiles. But also the good thing about the anti-air vehicle is that it doesn't really require you to use any skill, and even more importantly is that this vehicle can be really annoying and you won't even know where it's shooting from in most cases. It is actually an underrated anti-air. However, the Rampage itself, it has a lot of issues in my opinion, and the main one being is, for one, you are not one-shotting air vehicles here, which is fine since the 6 guided missiles, except these missiles are by far the slowest in the game when it comes to bullet travel. If you want to use this vehicle correctly, you have to be really good at the game. But anyway, lastly, moving into the unmanned vehicles, and I'm gonna have to go with a unpopular choice, to be honest. Most people will be saying is the Bayraktar, because it's the first ever UAV which they release, and it's supposed to be a starter UAV, etc, etc. I think the Predator is worse, and the reason why I'm saying this is because the Predator's weaponry is much more split in a way that you're not getting too much versatility out of it. Like for example, it has a 4 air-to-air missiles, missiles and it only has 2 anti-ground missiles, which in most cases is gonna mean that your ground combat is going to be way worse, so you're lacking in this category. This vehicle costs more parts than the Bayraktar. It is a 5-part vehicle. It is also a bigger hitbox, where the Bayraktar fires 4 multi-round missiles at you, and it's got this really small and annoying hitbox, and you're probably never gonna be hitting it. So I would probably go with the MQ-1 Predator as the worst UAV or unmanned vehicle in the game right now. But anyway, for the time being, that's all I have for you guys in today's video. Do let me know in the comment section down below what in your opinion are the worst vehicles from every category and just overall worst vehicles in the game. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching.